It didn't work. They destroyed their agriculture, and it drove them into serious, serious debt and problems. And it's funny that the Soviet Union, through their communist economic system, and the United States, through its capitalist economic system, have both destroyed their farmers. They both destroyed their manufacturing base, their working class. It has not been pretty for either of those systems. Something in between the extremes is actually quite important. We need democracy. We need to start taking control of our own society again. Do you remember this is government of the people, for the people, and by the people? This whole we the people thing that we had to memorize in kindergarten. We need to make that work, and then we can then set prices at parity so that we can pay our workers a fair wage. We'll be paying more for our food. We will be paying more for our sneakers and our shirts and our television sets. But at the same time, those workers that are producing those things will keep the money in our economy. We can, pay somebody else to produce our stuff, and then we'll have the stuff, but they'll have our money. If we pay ourselves to produce the stuff, we'll have the stuff and the money. It's simple. So we need to, control prices at parity so people can afford to live a decent life, not get rich, but have enough so that they're not going to die if they have a calamity or a problem. We need to limit the size of our producers, make sure that we cannot allow anybody to become so big that they can control the marketplace, exploit workers, so no one has any other option but to bend at the knee to the great capitalist. We do need to make businesses serve the needs of society. And if they stop doing that, we take away their charter, we throw them in jail, whatever it takes. And small-scale production among private individuals with this understanding of community, of togetherness. And really, it all started by these large manufacturing banking interests wanting to take the American farmer off of parity. And that's what happened in 1950. They were finally able to, oh, by the way, they did it earlier too, in the 1920s, which led to the Great Depression. There was not enough money. People were going into debt. Once people are living off of debt, they cannot repay the money, the compound interest, and there simply was not enough money in the economic system. It wasn't just purely speculation on the stock market. It was led up to by the deregulation and the reduction of tariffs, which were protecting the wages of American businesses, so that American economy was supporting the American people. Now, it sounds a little bit selfish to say we're going to wall off our country and make sure that all imports come into this country have to pay a certain price. We are going to sell all of our products at the amount to which the producers of that product will be paid a decent wage. If we were to do that, then the United States prices, because we are such an enormous consumer country, we buy so much stuff, the rest of the world would have to sell their products at our rates. That means these other poor producers that are now slaving away in these sweatshops for pennies on the day, they would have to then, they would be able to sell their products, if they're going to sell them in our market, for our money. That would be a windfall for the workers, for the farmers and other societies, but what would more likely happen is they wouldn't be able to sell in our markets because they couldn't afford, so they'd end up selling in their own market at parity prices. Everyone's wages would come up. That's another thing the global trader, the global industrialist doesn't want to see, is some kind of a global fair price for a fair day's work. So, this whole notion of free trade, which was pushed through not by Ronald Reagan and not by George Herbert Walker Bush, but by Bill Clinton. We could go in all night. I wish we could actually spend more time, but I really wanted to get the fundamental ideas that really motivated this free trade were the manipulation of price. Not just so that we could find lower prices of labor so that we could sell our manufactured goods at an even greater profit margin. We do, by the way, buy our $150 Nike sneakers. It costs less than $5 to actually produce those sneakers. So, I mean, there is a bit of money to be made there, but like I say, the real money to be made is putting all these American workers in debt, by being able to manipulate currencies and manipulate economies to be able to make money by trading back and forth between these other countries. And we really are missing the picture if that's really what we're looking at, is what labor is being paid. The global traders, the big world bankers, they're making money in many, many ways that we're not being allowed to see. And I do really think that we are thinking of the world according to these extremes, which really distort what's actually going on. And in many ways then, this Marxian critique, while extremely truthful, extremely important and useful, it really does play into the hands of the capitalists, because it distorts what's going on, so we are not quite aware of the real picture. Now, why don't I shut up before I keep going? I'm way past my bedtime.
Actually, a really quick question. Maybe you could explain NAFTA and its implications for, say, Mexico, and just a brief synopsis.
That is such a fiasco, it's just ridiculous. When NAFTA passed in 1992, I don't really know because I haven't checked the statistics, but I think I remember from living through it at the time. I wasn't really old back then, I was in my 20s, but I was kind of aware and observant. Once Bill Clinton was elected, I think it was the second thing he did was push NAFTA through Congress. Reagan wanted to do it, he couldn't, because the Democrats, being the party of the people and being concerned about the people, they were not going to allow us to completely destroy our local economies, our national economies, by allowing these cheap manufactured goods from other countries to come in and destroy the wages of American workers. So the Democrats were always resisting the Republican, the pro-business, pro-global trader desire to eliminate tariffs. So Reagan couldn't do it. Bush first tried to do it. And then once Clinton was a Democrat, once he was elected, I think that was the second thing he did after no tell, don't ask, don't tell. But what it did immediately, within 4 years, I'm quite sure that 40 million Mexicans fell into poverty in those 4 years, and the price of food, the price of corn particularly, which is the staple of Mexican economy and culture, dropped by 20%. So we wrecked the Mexican economy, we wrecked the lives of the majority of the Mexican people who lived off of the production of corn, particularly in the southern half of the country. And so now we're all worried about all these illegal immigrants flooding across the border. Well, NAFTA is what did it. NAFTA is what caused it. We wrecked their society, we put their people out of work, we drove them into poverty, and when you're in poverty and you can't feed your children, you'll do whatever you have to. Even if it means making a perilous journey, risking your life, going to live in some foreign country you don't speak the language, where you know you're going to have to live on poverty wages to begin with, but if it's better than what you could make back at home, you'll live without seeing your wife and your children for years at a time, just to send money back down to them to keep them from starving to death. It really is incredible what we, the people of the United States of America, have allowed to happen to Mexico, and then we've allowed those big, huge industrialists, the global traders, the same people, by the way, that own NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox News, CNN, etc., who are telling us, look at all these problems here from these darn immigrants coming into our country. We need to be aware of it and be afraid of it. It's just really insidious. What a distraction. That way we never have to question what caused it all to begin with. We're not just wrecking their society, our wages have declined. Most Americans are living on thousands of dollars less today than we were in the 1970s. We're not only living on thousands of dollars less every year, but we're working many more hours every week in order to just lose money. But yet we're told that we should be happy. Everything is great. We're going shopping all the time. We're further in debt is the only way that we can maintain the standard of living.